Herzlich willkommen zu Digital Media
A
Preview,
very warm
der
welcome
BUS2BUS.
to our
Es ist
digital
nun
media
wirklich
preview
nicht
of the
mehr lange hin.
BUS2BUS.
Vom 27. bis
It's
zum
not a long
28.
time.
April
We will
trifft sich nämlich
have
die
the trade show between
internationale
27th and
Busbranche
28th
hier
of
in Berlin.
April. The
Seit
international bus sector
2019
will meet
warten wir
in
schon
Berlin.
drauf, dass sie
Since
endlich wieder live stattfindet,
2019, we've been
beziehungsweise
waiting for it to
2019 war
take
das
place
letzte
live.
Live-Event und dieses Jahr
2019 was
treffen
the
wir uns
last
wieder
live
live in
event,
den Berliner
and this
Messehallen.
year we will
Die
meet again
heutige
on the
Digital
exhibition
Media
grounds in
Preview
Berlin.
soll die kommenden
Today's
Tage
digital media
beleuchten. Was
preview
dürfen Sie
is
erwarten?
to
Welche
talk
Messe-Highlights
about
gibt
the
es?
trade show,
Welche
what
neuen
is to
Formate
be
gibt es?
expected, what are the
Worauf darf
trade
man
show
sich als
highlights, what are the new
Fachbesucher,
formats,
Fachbesucherin
and what can
besonders
you look
freuen?
forward to if you're a
Für die
trade
kommende Stunde
visitor.
haben wir
For the
ganz
next
besondere
hour,
Gäste für Sie
we
eingeladen.
have
Jeder dieser
invited
Gäste gibt
special
uns einen
guests for
eigenen
you.
Input,
All the
einen
guests
eigenen
will give
Einblick
their
in das,
own
was uns
input
auf der
and will
BUS2BUS
give
erwarten wird.
a speech
Bevor
on
ich
what
nun
we
die
can
einzelnen
expect
Gäste
on Bus to
vorstelle,
Bus.
stelle ich erst
Before I will
einmal mich
introduce
vor.
the
Ich
individual
bin
guests,
Titinja
I would like
Hörner,
to
ich bin
introduce myself. My
Moderatorin
name
mit
is
Fokus
Titinja
auf
Horner.
Future
I'm a
Mobility,
facilitator
Urban
and I
Transport
mostly
und
work
Smart
in the
Cities
field
und ich
of
freue mich,
mobility,
Sie
smart
heute
cities and
durch
urban
den
transport,
Digital Media
and I'm
Preview
very pleased to
hineinzuführen.
guide you through the digital media
Wir
preview
beginnen mit dem
today.
ersten
Let
Speaker
us
heute,
start with the
Herr
first speaker
Martin
today,
Ecknig. Herr Martin Ecknig,
Martin
schön, dass Sie da
Ecknig.
sind.
It
Herr
is
Martin
nice to
Ecknig
have you
ist
here,
der
Mr.
CEO der
Martin
Messe
Ekning. He's
Berlin
the
und er ist
CEO of the
gebürtiger
Messe
Berliner.
Berlin, and he
Er
was
hat im
born
Rahmen
in
seiner
Berlin.
Karrierelaufbahn schon einige
And during
Städte
his
bereist
career,
und
he
Ziele
already
bewegt.
traveled
Herr
to
Martin
quite a
Ecknig war in
few
Peking, Shanghai
cities.
und
He
Hongkong.
was in
Ich freue mich,
Beijing,
dass Sie
Shanghai,
heute
and
hier
Hong
sind,
Kong,
Herr
and I'm
Ecknig.
pleased to have you here, Mr. Ekning.
Es folgt Frau Christiane Leonard. Sie ist
Then
die
Mrs. Christiane
Hauptgeschäftsführerin
Leonard, she's the
des
main managing
Bundesverbandes
director
für
of the German Bus and Coach Operators
BDO. Zudem
Association,
ist sie
BDO.
Mitglied der
Moreover,
IRU,
she is
Genf,
a
die
member
International
of the
Road
IRU
Union und dort
Genf,
seit
Geneva, the
2016, also
International
seit
Road Union,
knapp
and
über
since
6 Jahren
2016,
Vizepräsidentin für den
that is for more
Bereich
than
Personen.
6 years, she's been the
Schön, dass Sie
vice
da sind, Frau
president for
Leonard.
passenger
Aus einem
traffic
anderen
and
Bereich
transport.
der
Nice to
Mobilität
have you here.
kommt
Coming
Herr
from another
Dr.
area of
Stefan
mobility
Carsten. Er
is
ist
Mr. Stefan
Stadtgeograf
Carsten.
und
He's a city
Zukunftsforscher. Er
geographer
beschäftigt
and a
sich mit
futurologist,
allem,
and
was
he
sich bewegt
mostly
und
deals
natürlich
with
vor allen
everything
Dingen
that is
mit dem
moving and above
Zusammenspiel von
all
Zukunft, Stadt
with
und Mobilität.
the
Aktuell
fields
ist
of
er zudem
future city and
Beirat des
mobility. Moreover, he's an
Bundesverkehrsministeriums
advisor
zur
in the
Modernisierung
Federal
des
Ministry of
ÖPNVs
Transport for
und ganz
modernizing
wichtig,
local
er ist
public
Kurator
transport.
des Future
And very
Forums, zu dem er uns
importantly,
später auch
he's
noch
a
einige
curator of the
Einblicke
Future
geben
Forum
wird.
he's going to talk about
Schließen wir nun
later on.
den
Now let
Nachrichtsteil
us
mit
close and
Frau
come full
Kerstin
circle
Kube-Erkens. Sie
with
ist Senior
Mrs. Kerstin
Produktmanagerin,
Kube-Erkens. She's
Direktorin
a
der
senior
BUS2BUS
product manager
und
and director of the
ist tatsächlich der
BUS2BUS.
Kopf der
And as a
BUS2BUS. Wir
matter of
freuen uns, dass
fact,
Sie heute hier
she's the
sind. Sie
head of
halten für uns
BUS2BUS.
die
We are
aktuellen
pleased to
Zahlen
have you
und
here.
Fakten parat.
You will
Schön,
provide us
dass Sie
with the
da sind, Frau
current facts and
Kube-Erkens.
figures. And
Guten
nice
Morgen.
to have you here, Mrs.
Das
Kube-Erkens. Good
Bus-Know-how
morning.
der Branche ist
The
vereint,
bus
wie Sie
know-how
sehen.
of the
Sie
sector
sehen
has
es, schön, dass Sie
gathered
heute
here,
hier
as you
sind.
can
Schön, dass Sie
see.
eingeschaltet
It's
haben
nice to have
und
you here.
mehr
It's nice
erfahren
that you've
von dem,
logged on
was die
so as
BUS2BUS
to get
prägt.
more information
Bevor
of
ich nun
bus to
mit dem
bus.
ersten
Before I'm
Vortrag
going to
starte,
start
möchte
with the
ich Ihnen
first
Journalisten und
speaker,
Journalistinnen
I
die
would
Info
like
geben,
to
dass Sie die
give
Möglichkeit haben,
you the
all Ihre
information,
Fragen
you
gerne
to the
im
journalist,
Chat
that you've
zu
got the
platzieren.
possibility to
Nutzen Sie
raise your
dazu
questions in
das
the chat.
Chatfenster.
Please
Ganz
use the
wichtig,
chat
stellen Sie
window. It is
konkrete
very
Fragen. Das heißt,
important. Please
adressieren Sie die
ask very
Frage
specific
konkret an die
questions. So
Person, an die die
tell
Frage
us
gerichtet
whom
sein
you
soll.
are
Und
asking.
schreiben Sie zudem noch hinzu, wer Sie
And
sind,
it would be
damit,
nice if you could
falls wir
add
nicht
your
alle
name
Fragen schaffen,
so that
die
in case we
Möglichkeit
don't
haben, am
manage to
Ende
answer all
Ihnen
the
noch
questions, we
alle
will have the
Fragen, die
possibility
Antworten
at the
dazu
end of the event
zuzuschicken.
to send you the answers
Gut,
after the
das war
conference.
jetzt genug Infos.
Okay,
Ich starte
this
mit dem
has been
ersten
in terms of
Impuls.
information.
Herr
Let
Ecknig,
me
Sie
start
sind
with the first
in
keynote
sehr
speech.
turbulenten
Mr.
Zeiten zur
Ekning,
Messe
you
Berlin
have
gekommen.
joined
Wie
Messe
haben
Berlin
Sie
during
die
turbulent
persönliche,
times.
die
How
persönlichen
have you
Jahre, die letzten zwei
experienced
hier
the
in der Messe
last
Berlin
2
erlebt und wie
years
bereitet sich die
in
Messe
the
Berlin
trade
vor allen
show, and
Dingen
how
mit
does
diesem
Messe
tollen
Berlin
Veranstaltungskalender
prepare
auf dem
for the
April
next
vor?
time, because there are a lot of
Ja,
events
guten Morgen
planned
in
in
die
April.
Runde, liebe
Good morning, everybody,
Medienvertreterinnen und
dear media
Medienvertreter, liebe Gäste.
representatives, dear
Ja,
guests.
2 Jahre, in denen wir uns ja nun alle
Well,
gemeinsam
it is 2
überwiegend
years
auf dem
now that
Bildschirm
we've
begegnet
mainly
sind,
met
stehen
on
jetzt vor einem
screen.
großen Wechsel. Es geht wieder
Now
rein in das
there will
persönliche
be a big
Wiedersehen,
change.
in
We
ein
will
Treffen
meet
der
in person
Busbranche
again.
bei der
There will
BUS2BUS.
be the
Es geht endlich
conference
wieder
of the
los.
bus
Wir
sector,
werden
BUS2BUS, finally we can start again, we can meet in person, and we are very much looking forward to this. I personally am very pleased about it because the BUS2BUS to us is emblematic for the fresh start of the trade show. It is one of the first events this year, and finally we can get started again and we can meet in person and talk about the new trade show innovations, and we can exchange our ideas personally. And this is something which has been missing to me, but what others told me in their feedback, this is the feedback we got from the markets, because this is what was missed most. You've just mentioned it. Our calendar of events is full of events in the next weeks. For instance, next week we will hold the Fruit Logistica in the exhibition grounds. This is the leading trade show on the fruit trade. Moreover, almost at the same time with BUS2BUS, we will have the DMEA. This is a trade show about the digitalization of the healthcare system. So this is really a hot topic. So it's about the zeitgeist, just like the BUS2BUS trade show. So you can see we're getting started again. Things are happening again. Against this backdrop, safety for our exhibitors and for our visitors is, of course, the topmost priority. We have learned to deal with the virus. We've made a lot of experience, and we've planned the BUS2BUS as a safe event. That is, there will be enough space for everybody. So all the people who will want to keep their distance will be able to do so. They can decide themselves on the distance they want to keep. So we will have a lot of space, and everybody can decide themselves how they want to move around. The official hygiene requirements will, of course, be fully implemented. Moreover, we can react flexibly at any moment in time. We can see in Berlin the regulations do not provide for any limitations any longer as of next week. So we suggest to our guests that they should continue wearing masks, and they should observe the rules we've all become familiar with, that is wearing masks, washing your hands, social distance. It is not legally obliged, but it is our recommendation. Now that the bus sector will convene here in the capital underneath the radio tower, there's a good reason for it, because Berlin is one of the biggest urban spaces in Germany. Transformation towards sustainable mobility and the redesign of social spaces is in full swing here in Berlin. There is hardly an exhibition ground with so many possibilities for mobility like here at Messe Berlin. There's InnoTrans, ILA, Messe Expo, the International Suppliers Fair, EZB, and above all, there's BUS2BUS. So we are hosting several events in terms of mobility, be they railbound, airborne, or in this case, on the road. The Digital BUS2BUS Special Edition 2021 has already impressively shown that this event can make a major contribution for the sector and sustainable mobility. Because in the German-speaking area, the BUS2BUS is a unique event, and it is also an event which is very important. There's no other event which covers the entire sector this way. Starting with local public transport, via long-haul transport to bus tourism, there are vehicle manufacturers, equipment manufacturers, all the pertinent service providers and associations. They are all represented at BUS2BUS. First of all, I would like to mention the German Bus and Coach Operators Association, BD. This is our co-organizer. As a host, Messe Berlin is determined to convene the mobility sector live and on site again, and to prepare it for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, be it live or on screen, we are very much looking forward to see you once again at BUS2BUS 2022. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ekning, for your input, for your insights into BUS2BUS. Maybe you can tell me what you are looking forward to most at BUS2BUS. Well, I'm also a very curious person, and this is why I'm pleased to see all the changes, the innovations, new services, etc. I would like to take part in this sector, and I would like to experience what has changed, and I would like to see what the future will hold in install. So all the new innovations, this to me personally arouses my interest all the time. And this is why I'm looking forward to be able to spend some time on BUS2BUS and learn a lot from the exhibitors. Great. One question I've got personally, this is the question, when, Mr. Ecknig, did you drive in a bus for the last time? Well, this is not a long time ago. Approximately, I suppose, in December, I'd say. It depends on your life situation. There were times when I went by bus all the time, coaches as well for long distance trips. Today, I personally use a mobility mix, but it's not a long time ago, and it was a good feeling. Great, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ecknig. I would like to continue with Ms. Leonard. Dear Ms. Leonard, during the past years, BDO has done a lot so as to focus on the bus sector, that the public at large and politicians focus on the bus sector. Now there's a second wave of challenges. Energy prices are skyrocketing, and at the same time we can see that the bus sector is able to adapt more so than other sectors. Where does it take its strength and power from, and how can the private bus sector meet the current challenges? Hello, first of all, good morning to everybody. Well, dear Tatiana, honestly, I don't know how the sector manages. It is amazing. You can see this as a matter of fact. You mentioned the energy prices, but it is more than 2 years that we've had to deal with the COVID crisis. And sometimes I'm wondering myself, as a matter of fact, emotionally speaking, where do the companies take the power to deal with all the crises and to always continue? There is an imminent strength and power and great characteristics, but this is also due to the medium-sized enterprises, and we can hear the discussions about fuel prices and the question whether we can get gas from Russia in the future. The medium-sized enterprises are in the limelight during this discussion, and well, I can only say that the companies are in a very good position. They've got a very good capital ratio. Without it, they wouldn't have mastered the COVID crisis. But they also have received great support from the federal government, and this support were a massive contribution for the companies so that they've managed. So it's a mixture of these two reasons, state subsidies and a very good position of the companies as far as COVID is concerned. So this is why I'm very much looking forward that at BUS2BUS in April, we will also meet representatives of the federal government. The minister will be on a guided tour. He immediately accepted our invitation, and he supports our event. He will give a speech, still against the backdrop of COVID, we have to say. He has met people in person, but given the pandemic, he didn't go to a lot of events, and it is for the first time that he's been Minister of Transport and Digitalization. He will talk to us in person. We're very much pleased about it, but we also focus on bus tourism, and we are very pleased that we will have fresh travel so as to shed light on bus tourism. And the Tourism Committee of the German Parliament will be on site as well. This is something very new. We're pleased that they have accepted our invitation. And you can also take a look at the vehicles. You can get a good overview of what is on offer. We've got 2 fantastic Congress panels. There's a great mixture with politicians. Undersecretary of State will be represented there. People coming from Bundestag, MPs will be at the trade show and the Congress, and they will talk about the urgent issues, and we'll have representatives from the business community, of course. And you mentioned it's about the price explosion regarding diesel prices. This will be a topic, and €9 tickets will be discussed as well. The coalition committee agreed on this from one day to the next. This came as quite a surprise to us. We will have to think about how to implement the €9 tickets, who will finance it, and the federal states and the federal government haven't agreed on anything. There's no foundation, no legal basis for this at all. We do not know how this is to be implemented. Where will this ticket be valid? Is it for new customers, for older customers? What about pupils having monthly tickets? All these are unclarified questions, and we really do not have any answers so far. We don't have the answers at BDO, and we will definitely need a lot of discussions with politicians. Still, we haven't received a lot of information, so we need to hold many more discussions between the federal states, the federal government, together with the companies, the municipalities, etc. And this will definitely be an important topic during our panel discussions, and I'm looking forward to the discussions, and I'm really pleased about this.
Vielen lieben Dank, Frau Leonard.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Leonard. We already have a question for you. You already mentioned it briefly, but I would like to come back to it. The question was, what is the current situation of the bus companies with regard to COVID restrictions, the diesel price, etc.? But specifically also the question, are there any companies which went bankrupt? So far, thankfully, there are hardly any companies which went bankrupt. A few, but this happens also when there is no war, when there are no pandemics. It is still limited because the companies were very well positioned, as I said, so they rather managed rather well to come through the pandemic times. But you have to say that we would have wished for more things regarding energy prices. You have to imagine diesel prices, well, increased to the tune of 100%. And if I talk about local public transport, then over 10 years, I might have entered into a contract, was involved in a tender. So I've got my rules for 10 years. I can't simply increase prices in the middle of this period. In tourism, it is not easy either, because there's a package, a tour regulation, according to which more than 8% increases of prices is not possible. You need to enter into new contracts. You need to talk to customers. So it's a major challenge ahead of us, given these diesel price increases. And we asked for something in the field of diesel that is a reimbursement of high energy costs for buses, maybe also for lorries, because they are struggling as well. This would have been possible. A lot of other member states do this diesel regulation. We've asked for 40%, but this was not accepted, as you know. The paper, and the German coalition decided to have a decrease to the tune of 14 cents for diesel. But this is just a drop in the ocean, and our companies are really worried indeed about how to shoulder these things, so that we are going from one crisis to the next, and we need reliable statements and rules. We need this diesel regulation if we want to maintain mobility, and the €9 tickets means that more mobility will be created. This is the purpose of it, of course. So this is counterproductive in terms of operation. Politically speaking, it might make sense. I don't want to judge on this, but it is counterproductive for the operations, because if prices increase, we've got higher wages, higher overall costs. If prices increase, actually, we should have to increase prices, so the local public transport ticket should increase, but it will be decreased due to the €9 ticket, and this needs to be compensated. The Federal Minister for Transport told us that the companies will receive something in return, but as said, how this is going to happen, we all don't know. This is still to be discussed, and we really hope that the federal government and the federal states will find an agreement soon, that they will then start investing, because our companies need the support now. We are facing the diesel cost problem now, and then the €9 ticket it will be possible. So it has to be clarified now how the money is to be disbursed to the company. A lot of questions are still open. Thank you very much, Mrs. Leonard. And maybe regarding the BDO, how does BDO prepare BUS2BUS quite specifically? Well, we're all very excited because this is our first event in person for many years. We feel just like Mr. Ecknig, we're very pleased that we will meet and convene again. And we all invited our members. We also invited our committees, and we already prepare ourselves. Our technical committee convened this week, and they were wondering about where to go, whether they want to do a guided tour. There is a new chairman in the technical committee who really addresses alternative drives, and we will join a guided tour. We will do our own guided tour, and well, in all our bodies we are preparing for the trade show, and we told our members, please come to Berlin. It is a difficult time, of course, for the bus companies. They are very busy. They need to guide themselves through these turbulent times, but we hope that we will be able to discuss all the issues in Berlin and that we can meet again. This is very important to us after this long time. So we are kind of working in all channels for preparing the BUS2BUS. Thank you very much, Mrs. Leonard. We're all looking forward to this, and we're very much looking to you at the BUS2BUS. Dr. Carsten.
Dr. Carsten, the extracurricular program is usually very important at trade shows like this. Can you tell me what is currently happening in the industry? What does BUS2BUS focus on? What are the issues that will be touched upon and have to be touched upon? Yes, thank you very much. It has been outlined very precisely what the big issues, the big problems of the current times are, and this is one of the essential issues at the Future Forum at BUS2BUS this year. I would want to focus on the three big issues. That's one topic that is still very far in the future, but nonetheless might be more important than ever: autonomous intelligence. How do we prepare for autonomous driving, particularly for the bus industry? This is a relevant issue. I'd like to talk about new drives, although Christiane Leonard has excellently presented this with a lot of knowledge already. And finally, I'd like to talk about fresh travel, possibly the most important aspect. What does the bus industry, bus tourism operators need to prepare for in order to reach out to young target groups? Let me quickly talk about autonomous intelligence. As you all know, this year, the first autonomous vehicle will be driving in Germany, in Munich, and this will not only have an impact on the definition, what's public, what's private transport in the future, what will the business models be in these areas of technology that overlap. And that's why we want to look at this topic from the Future Forum from different vantage points. We invited Nicole Scott, the founder of Mobile Geeks, and in her keynote, she will speak about the technological vantage points of the responsive players. To which extent is the industry already prepared for this, and what does it mean that the mobility environment, does it mean for the mobility environment in Germany and beyond, that the legal aspects play a very important role here? And as you might know, Germany, as I just learned myself, is the one country that, as far as legal conditions are concerned, is far beyond the preparations of the United States or France. So the playing field for this technology has been prepared, and the question is, how do different players deal with this? We are going to talk to Thorsten Bergmeier Trade with MAN truck and bus design, how the manufacturer's response looks like. We asked Clemens Dierling, co-founder and CEO of Mobi from Bavaria, what does autonomous intelligence mean for the rural area, for public transport in the rural area. And we ask Delax, a company from Berlin, provider of sensors, what the role of data is and how sensor data can be used in this new environment. In the second complex, which is, by the way, not a coincidence that new drive solutions participate in the future forum, not just because of the current situation in Ukraine, not just because the current situation regarding the prices of diesel and gasoline, but also because past, present, and future meet in one location. And the question is, what does electrification mean in a very general environment? What does electrification mean in the urban public transport? And what does it mean in long distance traffic for bus tourism? So we have three different priority areas, and we discussed the general conditions with Tanja Altmann, who is the CEO of Skoda Transportation in Germany. She will discuss with Urban Windelen, the Managing Director of the Energy Storage Systems Association in Germany, and she will look at the situation from a more general point of view. In the panel, New Drive Solutions in Public Transport, we will talk to municipal companies. Dr. Hesse with the BVG will talk about electrification and the new drive solutions and discuss that with Christiane Kapsale, who's with BUS2BUS, Peter Beifeld, who is the CEO of Ebusco, and we want to answer the question, what does new drive solutions mean for routing, for storage systems, loading systems, and for very many questions that people in the industry are interested in. And what does new drive solutions in tourism and long distance travel mean? Here we will talk with Mario König, who is the CEO of Salsa Tours, Frank Discher of ZF, but we also want to look at what the political decision makers say about this, and we invited Oliver Hoch, program leader, electric mobility, bus and rail of Now GmbH, and you might know the most recent announcements as a reaction to the current situation. H2 said that their hydrogen station offer will be increased threefold from formerly 100 stations in Germany. So the infrastructure in Germany will change faster and more drastically because of the most recent developments than a lot of people thought possible 1, 2, or 3 years ago. And finally, fresh travel. What does it mean to travel by bus? What are new customer requirements regarding design, sustainability, aesthetics, digitalization? What does it mean for the stakeholders in different segments? What kind of new new customer requirements does the industry have to deal with, and how can these new customers be dealt with, and how can we reach out to them? We looked for some assistance from Airbus. Airbus, a company which is under a lot of pressure as well and is explicitly looking at the future. We've got Nicholas Chekne of Airbus to support us because to present to us the cabin vision 2030 and present how an industry is developing, how a sector of industry that needs to look very much into the future prepares for the future. Nicholas Chechne will participate in a panel discussion with Stefan Schönherr, who is Vice President for HMI of MAN, and he will discuss with Benjamin Kloss, who is the director of one of the biggest startup accelerators of the world. He is director in Austria, and they will look at or he's been looking at traveling and tourism for many years now, and they will confront us with the new topics that the new startup industry is introducing into these issues. And as this is a very important focus topic for us, we will also have a small fireside chat. It's just going to be a very brief session, but we wanted to use the opportunity of having the participants in one location again and look at this topic from different vantage points. Laura Abate, who you are already familiar with from the last press conference, will come together with Christiane Leonard, with Sam Salis from Luxembourg, and Lucas Kimmel, who's with DB Regio Bus. And in a very compact, condensed way, the question also is, how does bus tourism in the future look like? Is it more hip than originally thought? And how can new target groups and customer groups be tackled? And what are new customer needs? How can we put the customer at the center of attention again? Professor Bernd Eisenstein with the FH Westküste University of Applied Sciences will talk about new research findings. We'll talk with Michael Ellert, Dennis Simon of Pass Solution. Michael Ellert is with TimeRide. We will be interacting with the audience. There will be an international shades that can be tried, and we will talk about many ways of reaching out to the customers. Thank you very much, Dr. Carsten. Do you have a session that you're very much looking forward to, or can you not be biased? Now, that's a good question. Thank you very much. I think the most interesting thing is to really meet people again face to face, shake their hands, say, nice that you're back in Berlin, nice that you've come. It's a very absurd situation that we're in. Last week, I was in Austria, where after 2 weeks of freedom, the mask mandate was reinstalled. So that was a very sad, depressed atmosphere. 2 weeks ago, I was in France with at a trade show, 4,000 people in a hall, and I didn't see one single mask. And now having the possibility to come and meet in Berlin and have an exchange is the absolute highlight for me personally, and will be very, very helpful for the industry as a whole. Thank you for your input statement. And as a future researcher of the future and city geographer, let me ask you, can sustainable mobility work without buses? No, it cannot. Ms. Leonhardt is also shaking her head. Yes, it's absolutely impossible, and it doesn't make sense from the political agenda as well. We see when we look at the political initiatives that the bus is put into the center of everybody's attention. We need it everywhere, not just here, in every country all over Europe. We need it in the cities, we need it in the suburban areas, we need it in the rural areas, and all of the initiatives I just mentioned focus on the bus. The technical development, the customer developments, and also the legal framework shows that the bus is one essential aspect of sustainable mobility. Thank you very, very much. Still, compared to the train or the car, the bus doesn't always have the reputation of being the best choice and being that sexy. Why is that? Can you elaborate? When I talk about buses with friends and network partners, something that I've been doing quite frequently, the old ideas of long-distance bus traveling and the special customer segment attached to that is still very predominant. And I think these are ideas that are important and relevant for the future as well, but they do show that the topics and trends need to be understood in order to really make the bus hipper and sexier. don't we have to change the bus concepts that we're thinking about? Electrification, doesn't that provide us with different possibilities of positioning the bus differently? Isn't the digital moment a possibility of turning the public bus transport system into a private system, or to make something completely different? There are so many possibilities of preparing the buses for the future in a different way, and maybe this is a good chance. Thank you very much. This definitely sounds extremely promising. So I would like to say goodbye to you, Dr. Carsten. Thank you very much for participating, and we're very much looking forward to BUS2BUS. We're very much looking forward to what is going to happen. Thank you for your input. Ms. Kube-Erkens, for 3 years, or it was 3 years ago when the last BUS2BUS happened physically in location, a lot has changed in the industry, a lot has changed in the world of trade shows. Can you just continue with this BUS2BUS as if nothing had happened? What is the reaction of the exhibitors? How are they accepting BUS2BUS? And what are the novelties that we can expect from this year's BUS2BUS? Thank you very, very much for this question, which I gladly answer. So I would also like to welcome you very much. I want to tell all of the press representatives that we're very much looking forward to presenting you the information about BUS2BUS, which will take place 4 weeks from now. We are delighted, together with the bus industry, that BUS2BUS is able to take place again this year. And to answer your question, the past 2 years, despite the fact that we didn't have events, live events, we wanted to talk about and find out what is important, what people are interested in. We collected a lot of input for this year's BUS2BUS, but being able to meet again in April is a very special situation for us. And as I already said before, we have now understood as event industry how much we have in common with the mobility industry. We live from contacts, personal encounters, and this is very difficult to do this digitally. So it's a very, very special and significant moment to meet again personally this year. So what about the feedback? Well, honestly, after 2 years of the pandemic, we were not expecting the industry to give us such an overwhelming response. And this really shows the great desire for personal exchanges. We were able to increase our net area, particularly our market leaders are participating with more space and more vehicles. We expect all in all approximately 100 exhibitors from 16 countries. I just checked on this. So we are increasing the amount compared to both time during the pandemic and prior to the pandemic, and this makes us very happy and optimistic. Now, who is participating? Long-standing exhibitors such as Daimler, VDL, Iveco, MAN, Ebusco, or Anadolu, Isuzu, and Flixbus. But we're also glad that new stakeholders are participating: Skoda Transportation, Catano Bus, Curzon, Arthur and Atlas Auto, for example. Sustainability is very clearly in the focus of our exhibitors. Alternative drives, electric mobility, hydrogen, but also the possibility of retrofitting will be something we focus on. Also participating for the very first time, the issue of infrastructure and the corresponding charging possibilities. Shell, ABB, Kempower are participating. Also different startups are presenting their battery charging solutions, a lot of technical participation here. They are also participating in BUS2BUS. We have seen that buses are capable of more than just transporting passengers from A to B, and that they can also offer experience-oriented sustainable tourism. We are showing this in our new program session, Fresh Travel. As Stefan Carsten just said, this is very important to us. It is about putting the bus in the limelight it deserves. It's not the smelly, loud, old bus. These are ideas of the future, images of the future that need to be exchanged with new players, new images, new ideas, and the great power of innovation that the industry has. And this is what we're going to do with Fresh Travel. Experts will have discussions on this issue and will present modern forms of bus tourism. Digitalization plays a very important role here as well. And we are very happy that the Association of International Pakete, VPR, is a wholesaler, is participating here, and they will participate and present. Travel coaches also play a big role. Neoplan with the Cityliner Platinum, a special edition, and the EvoBus Autocar and VDL, they also have modern travel coaches in their product ranges. Then modern interiors from Kiel, and then we have Twiliner, a startup that also wants to inform us about new modern ways of traveling. There will be infrastructure solutions for the travel industry, for example, from ITCS, software solutions from Ratio, software booking platforms from BUS-Finder, and as I already said, or as Mr. Carsten already said, there is the possibility of experiencing sightseeing in a completely different way. This will be presented by Time Ride. They will introduce our visitors into a new dimension of bus traveling. And in this context, we also need to mention FlixBus. FlixBus is participating again. They are celebrating a very special anniversary this year. And I believe FlixBus is so important because it significantly contributed to improving the image of buses, the innovative aspect of buses, and introduce this to a new young audience, and consequently participate in the changing image of the industry. Christiane, Leonard already said the highlight of all of these activities surrounding fresh travel is the support of the tourism committee of the German Bundestag that will visit us, and we are very glad that there will also be a tour and a guided tour of the Minister of Transport and Digital and digital Mr. Wissing. And digital technology will also play an important role here. The new mobile eye turning assistance will be presented. A lot to see for visitors. The visitors can really look forward to a great range of activities. We have more than 25 buses on our indoor and outdoor display areas that we're presenting. Transport buses, coaches, minibuses. A lot of the things can be tried and tested live, and we will have some premieres as well. The trend when it comes to public transport is clear. It's about electric and hydrogen drives, and in the Future Forum, we will also discuss the issue of synthetic fuels. Innovative ideas for the mobility sector and from this mobility sector await you in the startup area, and there will be pitches where young entrepreneurs will be given the possibility to present their ideas. We hand out 2 awards this year, the Startup Award 2020 by BUS2BUS and the Fresh Travel Special category. So all that remains for me to say is please visit us, dear representatives of the media. There will be a lot of things that can be discovered, a lot of possibilities to have an exchange, and I can tell our visitors that the online shop is open until April 15th. There are still early bird price tickets available, and to the journalists amongst you, I can say please do the accreditation on the BUS2BUS website. We are looking forward to talking to you.
Vielen, vielen Dank,
Thank you very much, Ms. Kube-Erkens, and thank you to all of the other speakers for this informative exchange of opinions. And I'm now very glad that we can immediately begin with the Q&A session. There have been a number of questions from journalists, and Ms. Kube-Erkens, the first question is directed at you, but also at all of the other speakers. If you wish to add something or want to say something, feel free to do it. Q&A always lives from a good exchange. BUS2BUS has a question, Ms. Kube-Erkens. VPR is participating for the first time, and it shows that the trade show is focusing more on bus tourism. Is that a segment that you want to expand when it comes to exhibitors? Yes, as I already said, innovation in travel tourism is very important to us, and we very early on focused on this, and we're glad to have experienced experts that are supporting us, the VPR, so that we can go into this discussion. It is something that we're expanding on. It's about innovation, it's about digitalization, and it is about presenting future-oriented concepts for the tourism industry, and we are very glad about this exchange. Yes, and in 2024 and in the following BUS2BUS editions, this will also play a big role. Great, so it's not a one-time thing, it's important for the future and will stay with us. Interesting. Ms. Leonard, one question to you by BBV Media. How will BUS2BUS with the AMP expansion and modernization package of the Traffic Light Coalition, how will it deal with that? Will you urge, for example, that long-distance buses will be included in the architecture of the mobility transition? Thank you for the question, Mr. Schmidt-Auerbach. Absolutely, we will look at this. Yes, we are already doing this now, and it will be part of our conference on the second day. We focus on changing competition, and all buses will be discussed. How can the bus in general, and I'm talking about travel coaches, the public transport buses, the smaller on-demand buses, maybe even about privately owned vehicles that are traveling. How can passenger transport in general be included in this program? And the travel coach, the long distance coach, does play an important role here. I have repeated this again and again at different venues, that it is very important for us to include all types of buses, all forms of buses in these deliberations. And we have André Schwemmlein, Fixed Mobility CEO, on the panel, and we will talk about this as well.
Thank you very much indeed. There has been another question from Eurobus, Mrs. Kube-Erkens. I'm sure you can answer. This is the question on the trade show date, because there will be the RDA Expo, and for some bus operators this might be a challenge. What will the future hold in store? Will there be a better coordination? Maybe you can answer this. Thank you very much for the question. Well, COVID resulted in a lot of deadlines being postponed. We decided on April because we thought, given COVID, this was a good time before the sector will be in full swing again. This is why we thought April is a good time. I deplore this overlapping with the other events, and I hope that the media representatives and the visitors will find possibilities to still come to the BUS2BUS in Berlin. And in the future, well, we have to see how we can deal with the dates. We take place every 2 years, and the calendar of events is always very full of events in general. There are a lot of perspectives of the sector to be taken into account. We are above all an event which, next to bus tourism, focuses on technical development in general. So we need to cover the entire trade show portfolio in Germany and abroad, and we can see ourselves in a benchmark comparison with other event organizers, so that I hope that for 2024 we'll find and times which is appropriate for everybody. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kube-Erkens. Now I would like to switch over and talk about the content. Mrs. Leonard, during the COVID pandemic, buses were suffering as a mode of transport. We all know that. So how can buses become attractive again? What do you think about it? And how can customers, passengers be made trustful again? Thank you very much for this question. Well, first of all, I would like to talk on behalf of tourism. I believe that the attractiveness didn't really suffer during the pandemic. You have to see there was a ban on bus travels. Nobody was allowed to go on holidays by bus. And this was the desire of the then Chancellor, that it would be best not to go on holidays at all. We might remember the discussions we had in 2020 and even partially in 2021. So people weren't allowed to go by bus. Now, we realized that every time it was possible again, booking behavior was good, people were interested, and they wanted to travel by bus again. But then again, there was a new mutation of the virus, everything was destroyed, but it was very difficult. But all in all, we realized that people still believe that buses are attractive and they like traveling by bus. And we think that they can do that in the future. Bus companies are prepared, otherwise people wouldn't ask, they wouldn't want to book bus trips, so they do have trust, but we need to strengthen this trust again. And we can only strengthen trust to the extent of the general legal conditions. And I have to say that there's a lot to be desired there. I'm sure that you're reading the press yourselves. On the 30th of March, we won't have any regulations any longer. This is great, but some federal states, no, we don't agree with this. We will have COVID restrictions after 30th of March, so countries can decide on hotspot regulations. And well, this is a very fragmented situation. We've had it for 2 years, that we had a very fragmented situation in the various federal states and even the municipalities. And honestly speaking, given the new government now, we still see that this situation will be very fragmented. So if the federal government and the federal states won't convene and decide on uniform regulations, then it will be very difficult. But the bus companies still do their best so as to travel through Europe with their passengers. This is possible again. We've seen how flexible the bus sector reacted during the COVID pandemic, where they were allowed to go by bus. Bus companies said, okay, we'll focus on trips within Germany only, for instance. So new destinations were decided on. Bus trips were shorter, but great trips were made possible. I have to say that the sector is really highly flexible. I witnessed this. There were trips to anywhere. People didn't know where they were able to go in 1 week's time, whether there was accommodation illegal or not. So bus operators offered trips to anywhere, and passengers were informed only 1 day in advance where they wanted to go. The most important thing was the trip was safe, that the destination was safe, and this is linked to trust, of course, because who will book a trip to a surprise destination? But this is what it is all about. As a passenger, I have trust in the bus operator. They say, well, I go with you wherever you tell me, and you will make everything rightly. And well, there's the crisis in Ukraine, there's the war in Ukraine at the moment. Flexibility will be required there, and we can feel even now that there is a significant decrease in terms of booking in Eastern Europe, but this doesn't mean that passengers won't travel south, for instance. So as to go on a different holiday, I believe after all these years, people are highly interested in going on holidays. So I believe that the companies do provide and will provide highly attractive offers. They are very creative. They adapt themselves to the situation. But you also have to see, and today we've got the media representatives here. They've got a multiplier effect here in our virtual room. So a lot can be done. We still have this distortion in terms of competition compared with the railways. We're talking about an environmentally friendly mode of transport. And if you read the coalition agreement, then the idea of our federal government is to make sure that traveling is more environmentally friendly. They might ban domestic flights or rethink this from a point of view of the environment, and buses together with the railway mode of transport are the most environmentally friendly mode of transport. And really, this is a unique mode of transport. Let me say this again, because this is easily forgotten. We've got railways, we've got buses and aircrafts, but the bus tourism sector, they are event operators in the field of tourism, for instance, and at the same time, they are bus operators and they provide a mode of transport which is very environmentally friendly. And I think we need a level playing field in terms of competition. We need to reduce VAT. This was done for the railways, and this is to be done for buses as well. This is something which would help the companies after the restart now, so that they could gain momentum again. This would be very helpful. This is triggered because of the diesel price increase. This would really help to keep liquidity in the companies. We saw it when the VAT was reduced in the field of catering during the COVID crisis. It was very helpful for the restaurants and cafes and pubs. And this would be a very high time to also reduce VAT for coaches and buses. I'm talking about the short distance and long distance travel. This is really highly necessary now, and I'm very optimistic that then traveling will pick up again and companies will be able to provide a fantastic service. Thank you very much. I've learned that there is a lot of innovation and adaptability in the bus sector. These capacities are what we are going to see at the BUS2BUS. Hence the question to you, Mrs. Kube-Erkens, what should you not miss out on at the BUS2BUS? Where do you have to go to? Absolutely. Well, I can only invite you to go and have a look at the many vehicles to board a bus and to try and test it, to go on a ride. We've got the outdoor exhibition ground. There's a lot of space and you can test the buses there. I can only cordially invite you to do that. What are the virtual formats you're planning for the trade visitors who can't go to Berlin? Because I've heard that there is quite an offer. Indeed, I mentioned it at the beginning. During the past 2 years, we also seized the opportunities as to enhance our digital services. There will be a lot of presentations, which we had during the past 1.5 years. We had digital workshops across Europe. This is a lot of experience we gathered there. We will use it for this year's program as well, because we know that there are still countries where there are travel restrictions, where people don't travel like they used to before COVID. This is why we will stream our entire program. There will be an online ticket as well. So if someone can't go to the BUS2BUS to Berlin, this person can experience the entire program online. Digital matchmaking will be possible too, so that you can get in touch with the companies and the persons and the exhibits of the exhibitors, and everything that you will be able to see can be experienced in the digital format as well. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kube-Erkens. Thank you very much to everybody, to all the participants. I am really pleased that we can look forward to exciting insights, what we can expect at the next BUS2BUS. I would like to cordially thank all the journalists for their questions. I hope that you got an exciting insight and you know a little bit more about what will expect you at the BUS2BUS. After the event, we can send a summary to all media representatives. So you will receive a summary of the digital media preview if you want to. And Mrs. Kube-Erkens already mentioned there will be the possibility that you as media representatives click on the website. You can click on the press side, because there we have to bus to spot highlights. All the innovations highlights, etc., can be found there, so that you can prepare well for the BUS2BUS. So I'd say, okay, we'll see again live between 27th and 28th of April. We will meet on the exhibition grounds in Berlin. And let me tell you once again, if you've not registered and accredited, please do this online, because you can only register as a journalist online this time. So have a nice day, stay healthy, and see you at the BUS2BUS.